Actually, I'd run for council because I wanted to create change, and I actually failed, and I thought, well, what's another way that I could get involved? I loved Beaufort Street. At the time, Beaufort Street was emerging as a cool street. It hadn't been fully gentrified. There was still antique shops, collector shops. There were cafes and restaurants. And I saw this incredible street, and I thought it had so much potential that I wanted to do something to bring people together, bring businesses together to improve the street.
The first encounter that I had with the town teams was with the Beaufort Street Network. My first exposure to them was a very positive one. I was surprised that it wasn't so much a chamber of commerce, it was so much more than that, and it was very broad and encompassing and inclusive of everyone who just loved that place.
We didn't have any support from the City of Vincent at the time. We did a window display sort of installation. It didn't work, it failed. But then we decided we wanted to do a street festival. And so after a lot of hard work, we got a small grant of $20,000 out of the City of Vincent, who was still sort of unsure of us and even against us in some instances. And we worked with the businesses and residents, and we held our first ever Beaufort Street Festival.
I remember with the Beaufort Street Festival, just like volunteering for it. It was really creative and fun. You're doing these kind of new, kind of fun installations and meeting new people. It was an experience that not only made you feel good about volunteering, but it was something that you wanted to continue to be a part of.
It was the first time that we'd seen large-scale, community-based event, massive number of stakeholders, huge arts and creativity base to it. And it sort of was mind-blowing for many of us. It was so cool.
What we didn't know was that it would grow to become Perth's biggest one-day street festival, hosted by a non-for-profit town team.
And so heaps of other communities wanted that natural inclination. I was hanging out in Leederville at the time. Leederville were like, yes, this is what we want for Leederville. Same thing happened, Vic Park, Mount Hawthorn, North Perth, Northbridge, and then right down to Mandurah, right up to Wanneroo, to the hills, and now much further than that.
It wasn't just about the festival, we were also keen about improving the amenity of the area, so planting more trees, public seating, public art. And what I loved about it ultimately, it was people and businesses taking ownership of ideas and driving them themselves. That's the power of the model. That's why everyone should get behind it, including local government.
Historically, local governments have really played a fairly important role in community development. But without wanting to be too critical, they've never been quite good at it. And I think what makes the town team model quite different, it's about enabling the community to take responsibility for the community themselves.
The overarching principle that the local government as an organisation really needs to come to terms with is learning to let go. Learning to let go that you are not always going to be in control. Accepting that great ideas can come from a multitude of sources and areas in your community, and you don't always have to come up with them.
City of Stirling is actually the biggest local council in Western Australia in terms of population. As such, we have always had a bit of a front as being a slightly bureaucratic and a little bit out of touch. As part of my mandate into getting onto council was that I wanted to be able to partner the City of Stirling with local town teams such as the Inglewood on Beaufort.
The City of Stirling was running a charrette, planning kind of event. I attended, and businesses and community members were all getting enthused about Inglewood. And as a result, we caught up about 2 weeks later and immediately sort of became an incorporated association, and effectively was one of the first town teams in Perth.
Our two biggest achievements really have been our Monday night markets, where we bring a couple of thousand people down to our stretch of Beaufort Street. And that's all community-led and volunteer-driven, and has become a really big celebration for our community of getting people down. But our second biggest achievement has been these things, the Ingle Nooks, which have been a real collaborative effort of getting the community, landowners and businesses together to transform these unused spaces in front of buildings and turn them into places where the community can gather and celebrate.
we have found that the residents are far more appreciative of these efforts because it directly relates to their daily life. It's something that they go and utilise on a daily basis.
I first heard of town teams probably about 4 years ago. Some friends invited me to a pop-up bar and markets in Bayswater. I just went along because I thought it would be a nice thing to do and to meet people in the community. And I was totally inspired. What I saw was a bunch of people who really wanted to make a difference in the community of Bayswater. A major achievement for us was the Bayswater Arts and Street Festival. We worked for 6 months involving the community in the design of the festival. Then we organised all of our local creatives to come together to turn those concepts and those ideas into a festival sort of format. So it was a celebration of everything that was good about Bayswater.
The vision of Vic Park Collective is to make the town uniquely awesome, encourage people to spend time in the area, and that it's a really unique experience. So there's nowhere else in the world like Vic Park. It's got a really, really strong community that's very passionate about making sure that everyone's connected and sustainable. One of the first ones that I was involved in was around the importance of trees. The key targets of the strategy are to increase the canopy from 10% to 20%, so it's obviously a huge amount of trees that are being planted, up to 250,000 trees over the project life.
The town team in West Perth started as a group of small business owners that got together and trying to put some activation into this part of town that seems a little bit forgotten and really needed a bit of love. And probably the biggest project we have is what we call the bee scene. We've recognised that this part of town is fairly unique, being bordered by Kings Park and the city. So we're working with the city, Kings Park Botanical Gardens to implement the bee scene, where we will promote wildflowers and Indigenous culture and bee hotels to try and activate this area with a common theme.
I was a local business owner and there was this little group forming on the strip. I asked if I could join in, which I did, and then it sort of turned into a group where we started doing little activations on the street, and we had up late nights, they were called, busking and things that we hadn't done in Mount Hawthorn before, Mount Hawthorn hadn't seen before. It sparked a little flame that I didn't even know was there. It's really helped me grow as a person with my time on the Mount Hawthorn Hub. When I started, I was nervous little Nellie that didn't think that I had much to offer, and I left there feeling so confident and capable that I could get out into my community, and that everyone can. It's the best thing I've ever done. It was great.
For me personally, it was being able to make a difference in a community and to develop, quite a large social network.
I love being part of my community. I've been living in England for 7 years, and I suppose it's just at the time of my life. My children are quite young. I want them to be living in an environment that I suppose I can help and improve, and so it gives me energy, to be honest, to be part of it and have that connection with my community.
I'd been involved in a lot of community stuff before, and what I found was when it's purely volunteer-led, it can lead to burnout and it's hard to maintain that momentum, whereas the combination of community plus businesses plus the council, it really brings everyone's strengths together, and I think there's more longevity in that kind of project.
I do work full-time in a corporate role, and they can get very intense and very goal-orientated, and it's really nice to be part of a community and making difference at the ground roots.
It activates me. It asks me to be more deliberate in my kind of place love, and to think about and work on and cultivate my skills and my perspective about how I can make my place better. It also connects me with lots of people, including locally, who care about the same stuff that I do. And that enables us to learn from each other, to keep each other energised, and ultimately to have more influence.
We had a bunch of town teams springing up all over the place, and they weren't talking to each other. They were repeating the same mistakes, and we started talking about, well, how can we help?
what we decided was to come up with a new organisation called Town Team Movement. And this is an underarching body that was invented to support the town teams.
The growth from 12 to 50 town teams really shows that people are ready to have these conversations and take action, and that the model provides some structure for them to do that. I think we've really made something that connects a lot of great ideas and previous practices, but that is about to have its moment and about to respond to a real need in society.
During COVID-19, of course, it was an awfully scary time. Nobody knew what the outcome was going to be. Everyone, from the small business people like myself, it was quite daunting.
Whilst COVID's very negative, we get all of the negatives, there are some positives. And I think one of those positives is about people rethinking what's important to them. And that's about family, it's about community, it's about home.
What we saw was communities coming together, supporting each other, even if it's just saying hi on the street, to actively helping each other, doing drive-by dinners, helping support local businesses by finding out who's open and what they're doing, and sharing menus and painting rainbows, putting teddy bears on fences. All those sort of things to foster connection. It's very powerful, especially when people are feeling vulnerable or unsafe and uncertain. To have those sort of things happening is super important.
I think that people have realised they've come back to simple things, and the people around them is really part of what they do every day, and being able to know your neighbours, know members of your community, know your businesses, support local businesses. I just think hopefully will be a consistent theme going forward.
It's the most important time ever for everyone to come together, work together, strategising about what we need to do and how we can get there, and hopefully some more red tape being cut.
That is just fundamental local government business these days, is remove the red tape and enable things to happen. We've got the funding available, we've introduced new mechanisms that means we can allocate money really quickly. You know, this is not a time to be spending 8 weeks reviewing a funding application.
Working together, not working against each other, is super important. Trying to help yourself to help them is massive. If we all do our little bit, then everyone's going to come together and we're all going to have the very best chance of the right outcome.
If we've learned anything from lockdown in Western Australia, it's that community is really important to us. Not just online, but also in our local area. So Town Team is the perfect model for bringing people together in their local area.
So it's really important that we now shift our train of thinking into really being more community-based placemaking, more so than we ever have.
I see a future where community groups will have more autonomy and authority and be better empowered to deliver results that are best calibrated to their local needs and aspirations.
How do we all work together? It's not just about local government or community or business, it's about working together in partnership. The opportunities are endless, but the challenge is ahead of us.
Now's the perfect time to collaborate and innovate and create a bold new vision for the future.
Imagining like the unimaginable, the chaos, the creativity, but the trust that's created in our societies, and not knowing what's happening next, but being excited.
We've reassessed what's important to us. And one of the things is the connection with vibrant communities. And I think that's where we'll see the continued growth of the Town Team movement.
I think that people are ready and raring to go. I think they want a bigger say, and I think they want to take more action to improve their lives and the lives of people around them, while supporting their local businesses and connecting to their neighbours.
In the new normal, I really hope we can retain the strong sense that we are connected. We've realised that we can make each other sick, but also that we can and we are responsible for keeping each other well. And if we can nurture those connections and that awareness, then really beautiful things can happen.
In a COVID world, it might be tempting to actually take less risks and be conservative, but we've actually got to do the opposite. We've got to stand up, champion change, and really make sure that more than ever that we are socially connected, healthy communities. At the crux of that is powerful town teams advocating for greener streets, more street activation, connecting people, particularly those isolated and vulnerable. Town teams are incredible opportunity to shake things up in our community and make them actually a better place to live, work and play.